race fans. Welcome to another episode of Short Track Guys Podcast, brought to you in part by McDonald Muffler, the Muffler Mafia in Mobile, Alabama, a family-owned and operated muffler shop with converters, shocks, and more. Give those guys a call, 251-661-1043. That is McDonald Muffler, the Muffler Mafia in Mobile, Alabama. I am your host, Thomas Faddis, alongside two other Short Track guys in the studio, as always. Jim Pokrant, driver of the 07 Can'tQuitFishing.com Sportsman and 2021 Sportsman Champion, and Ted Baber, Ted Baber Video Productions. What's up, guys?
What is happening?
Good evening.
Yeah, we've got a weekend of racing. Again.
Durr.
Really? Not us.
Yeah.
Friday night coming up on the 7th of July. Happy 4th of July, anyway. By
Yes.
the way, get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Friday night. We've got 4 features at Five Flag Speedway here with the Sportsman, Pure Stock, Crown Stock, and the Outlaws. Jim's got his Sportsman car getting ready to go out there, and we're looking for an update and see if he's got anything up his sleeve.
Well, really haven't done much. It's sitting under the carport at my house right now because our shop's kind of clogged up. But yeah, I'm going to fix everything. I found a couple little issues I'm working on. No real big sweat there. But a little announcement I would like to make is next week we're going to have Ryan Blake on the show from the Story and Blake Crown Stocks. He's going to be our first Crown Stock driver of the week. We're going to do a segment once a week, sponsored by Story and Blake Roofing. And we're going to have a Crown Stock driver. We're going to highlight, either have them on or just highlight their facts, where they're from, what they're doing, how many years they've been racing, things like that. That's kind of cool to me. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to be ready to rock by the 7th, and we'll get the job done. And I apologize if my voice is a little weird. I was a little under the weather yesterday, and I kind of lost my voice, and it's kind of trying to come back. So if I sound a little funny, I apologize.
It's all good.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're going to have Ryan on next week. We look forward to hearing all about how that started and where it's progressing to. And we, as fans and racers alike, have seen the progress, and I'm sure there's more to it than that. And we're going to dig in a little deep of Ryan's brain and find out where it all came from and where it's going from here. And we look forward to Friday night. It's going to be a big four feature package. So get the family ready. It's a continuation really of 4th of July. That's Tuesday, but you can carry that into the weekend. I know some of us have a few days off of that, but we look forward to that.
One or two. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I get a 4-day weekend, so I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But I want to tell you something. The Crown Stock class, everybody that listens to this knows I've been preaching that class for at least 3 years now, saying that we should start a Crown Vic class because they're so cheap to build. I mean, you can find a car for $1,500 to $1,000, put a $500 roll cage kit, put it in, buy you have a helmet and a fire suit and a seat, and be racing for probably less than $5,000. And you can't do that anywhere else in any other class.
No.
You'll spend that on a motor in a pure stock car.
Yeah.
If you want to win, that is.
That is true.
So, yeah, I really enjoy that class, and the racing is great. And I just want to say that, yeah, that was kind of an idea I've been putting out there. So I'm glad somebody finally listened.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so much fun to watch, dude.
Absolutely.
It's total inexperience with some of the guys.
Yeah. And speaking of Ryan Blake, he happens to lead the points there by
Well,
15. That 15-point marker in the Crown Stocks going into Friday night with Tyler Young running second there. Daniel often got 44 points behind. He's got still some chances. They got to have some good turnaround this weekend to make some movement, but that class right there has shown to be some excitement.
Yeah.
Great class. Good division battling, and every inch of that racetrack's being used. And those guys put on a great show. Great class. I'm glad we started it, and I hope that it continues to grow like it's going to. As long as they keep the stuff under control, it'll continue to grow. Sportsman, we've been gaining some cars. Pure Stock's been losing a lot of cars. I'm just going to make a little off-the-shoulder prediction that pretty soon Pure Stock and Sportsman are going to be combined.
Probably, yeah.
I think that's coming because they're not that far away from us that they could step up. Now, I mean, it's going to be a little more expense for those guys, but most of the guys that run up front in a Pure Stock can afford a fast Sportsman car.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's what needs to happen.
Well,
and
there's a couple of the Pure Stocks that are on the verge of running the Sportsman times.
Pretty close.
Very close.
Within a half a second.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fast. I mean, you put a crate motor in those cars and on 8-inch tires, and they'll be just fine.
Yep.
Yeah, speaking of those pure stocks, Mason Johnson and Robert Barber there sitting tied for the lead there. And we're really coming down toward the end of the season. We don't have but maybe less than a handful of races left. And that's really going to be a class to watch from here on out.
Oh, yeah, and Mason Johnston, his grandfather is old Okie Mason, who's a fan favorite, big-time fan favorite from years and years ago. I've raced against Okie and met him when I was 12 years old. I got his autograph at Flomaton Speedway, so Okie's a really nice guy, and if he knows you or you want to go up and talk to a racer, he's a great guy to talk to. He loves the fans.
Yeah, a pretty good run in the pro trucks the other night.
I think he finished in the top 3. Yeah, sure did. He's a heck of a race car driver. There's nothing to take away from him. Modifieds won. I think he won a championship in Modifieds at Pensacola and Mobile, the trucks in Pensacola and Mobile, and then he won both of the Gulf Coast championships. So he won 6 championships in one year.
Yeah, that's craziness.
So, Okie is the man, and his grandson is a pretty fair to middling wheel man himself. That kid gets a job done. He's fun to watch. We like to cheer for him.
Yeah, speaking of pro trucks, now I know they're not on the slate for Friday night, but before we went on, Ted was telling me a story about Grant Thompson and what he did, and to show some of the respect and some of the kindness, you will, of some of these drivers out there. Ted, go over what you told me before.
Yeah, it was interesting because at the end of the race, Grant finished in the top 3. He took his trophy, as so many of the drivers I've seen done, and he was walking up towards the gate, the entry gate into the pits, and he spotted a little girl, and he called her over to the gate, and he gave her the trophy. A lot of guys do that, but I just thought, starting out that young, getting that kind of respect for the crowd, and it's nice.
Steve Buttrick used to do that a lot. And of course, he won so many daggum trophies. If he kept all of them, he wouldn't have nowhere to live. His little house would be full of them. So yeah, he whipped our butt for about 6 years.
Yeah, I think his wife had a little something to do. He don't bring any more of those home.
Yeah, probably. I think he kept all the first placements. It's the second, third that he gave away. But yeah, that's a neat gesture.
Yeah, you kind of imagine what kind of impact that puts on everybody around, not just just as the youth, but the parents as well, to get their kids involved. Whether it starts out for that bike races that we had just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, that might turn into something too. But that's something that goes a long way.
It does.
It gets the kids involved. With the entire situation.
Yep. Well, the sportsmen, the Chad Robinson and Maddox Langham, there's a 9-point difference there with Chad Robinson leading. I know that I believe this is the first of 3 sportsman races left for the season. So, Jim, with 40 points out, it's still a possibility. You'd probably have to win all 3 of them, but hey, it can happen. Yeah,
I wound up 3rd last year, and how I have that happen, I have no idea, because I couldn't find my butt with both hands. This year we're a little bit better, but we're top 5, and that's a streak that I've had for probably the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah. So I'd like to keep it going if we can get it done. So we're just going to keep digging. We're like I said, we got problems we got to find. We're going to work the car out. With it, wheel bearing went bad. I got to order a wheel bearing this week and pray it gets here in time. So we're going to dig hard and see what happens.
Yeah, well, we look forward to that, and we're going to always have the guy in the studio talk about it, too. So the Outlaws, Timothy Watson, Bubba Winslow are battling it out. They, too, are all coming down. Really, all classes are really coming down to the end of the season here, and not too far from us. Timothy Watson, Bubba Winslow, a 16-point difference. Connor Sutton sitting there in 3rd, 19 points back. This class is not over either.
Oh, no. Timothy kind of owns it, but I mean, anything can happen on any given day. You can have a problem, or just anything could take place, and oops.
I'm a friend of Bubba Winslow, but I am pulling for Connor Sutton. That kid needs to win a race. Yes. He's come so close. He was leading the Derby and got in a situation, and then he was leading this race and got in a situation, and it just seems like every time he can be starting in the back, and he'll drive all the way into a podium finish if he could just ever start on the pole. And then one night he was leading in, I forget who was running second. The Boyette kid, Logan was catching him. Yeah. And if he'd have run his line, he'd have won the race. Right. And the last lap, he come off a 2 and he did this defensive line. And I'm yelling, don't. Logan drove right around him on the outside. He gave Logan all the momentum getting in the corner. And I'm like, don't ever do that. I don't know who was spotting for him, but don't ever tell your driver, run the defensive line. No, you drive the car. The spotter tells you where the guy is behind you, and let the driver make the decision.
That's right. that frustrated me, too. I'm like, what did you do that for?
If he'd have come off the corner and went up high like he was supposed to and run down the straightaway, he would have beat Logan into the corner. But he did that little turn to the bottom, and it killed his momentum off the corner. Logan just right on the outside of him. That's just experience right there.
Yeah, there'll be a 4-feature Friday night at Five Flag Speedway. We'll get with you next Wednesday on the results for that local classes, and that really just kicks off what's left of the 4th of July weekend, if you want to put it that slowly. We're going to move on to some big ones that are here after Friday night, and somewhere in Slinger, up in Wisconsin, and then we've got Nashville.
Yeah, what a combination. We have the Slinger Nationals. Every time we go over these entry lists, it's not the same people, but there's a whole lot of repetition. And I don't mind telling you, it's a lot of fun watching these guys. Let's just start with the Slinger because that's a little bit north of us, but that's okay because we go wall to wall, treetop tall everywhere we can. And the entry list we have so far is Ryan DiStefano, William Sawallish, the Minnesota Missile as we call him, Luke Fenhouse, Eric Jones, and right behind him, this is just numerical order, not necessarily anything else, Johnny Sauter, John DeAngelis, Derek Thorne, Matt Kenseth for crying out loud, Chase Elliott, Derek Kraus, Alex Prunty, one of two, Austin Nason, Gabe Summers. A lot of these guys are local also, so don't count them out up there in Slinger because you never know what's going to happen up there either. Then Austin Nason, Gabe Summers, Grant Griesbach, Gio Ruggiero, Levon Vandergeest, William Byron, good Lord, Jeff Storm, and our man, Bubba Pollard, Cole Butcher, the big man, Dan Fredrickson, Nick Wagner, I believe that's Wagner, it could be Wagner, I don't know, Andrew Morrissey, Jeremy Lepac, Dennis Prunty, Connor Jones, Brad Keith, Steve Appel, Stephen Nassy, we haven't heard a whole lot from him, but, we're waiting for it, Rich Locke, David McCardle, Michael Hine, the man with the best hair in the pits, Blake Brown, Barrett Palamas, Ryan Farrell, Brad Mueller, Steve Dorer, there we go again, the Timinator, Ty Majeski, R.J. Brown, Conrad Morgan, Jacob Notstadt, and Rob Brown. That is a huge list of super drivers.
Well, if you say to me again, and I hear people say this, that super asphalt late model racing is in decline, you can kiss my butt.
Absolutely.
You can't tell me there ain't a star-studded field. You got cup drivers. You got the great Bubba Pollard. You've got Sawallish. You got these guys that are moving up. You got guys that have won major stock car races. I mean, Stephen Nassy, the Winchester 400 winner.
Oh.
I mean, look at Donnie Wilson cars and Ruggiero and all these guys that have won this year and have won down the road in previous. And you got Chase Elliott, Cup champion.
Absolutely.
Eric Jones, William Byron.
Eric Jones.
Matt Kenseth has won this race 8 times.
Eric Jones, Snowball Derby winner. Chase Elliott, Snowball Derby winner.
Right. Yeah,
nuts. Come on now. Don't give me this crud that, it's in decline, it sucks, it's not as good as dirt late model racing. Look, I love dirt late model racing. Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool. But you can't tell me that is not a star-studded field and there's a bunch of folks that are going to go home.
Yes. And that's the thing right there is because, all these NASCAR guys are going to mess it up. Tell Brad Keselowski about that. He went home at the Derby.
Tell Bubba Pollard that because he usually puts the spanky. I mean, how many big NASCAR races has Ty Majeski won? He's won several truck races, and Bubba spanked him at the Rattler. So I mean, don't ever count on any of these short track guys. And there's guys in there, that you've never heard of that may be the next big thing.
You never know. I mean, literally anything can happen. It could be a big tie-up, a big tangle someplace, take a bunch of people out. And
didn't even need that. Some of those guys just might find some speed. You never know. I mean, you're driving a Fury and we saw Tony Uri at Five Flag Speedway helping. No telling he shows up and goes, hey, I'd change this spring and do this. And you do it, and all of a sudden that dude's the rocket ship.
Rocket man, yeah.
And Matt Kenseth, former Cup champion, winner of the Slinger Nationals several times.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a star-studded field. So, like I said, if you want to talk bad about asphalt late model racing, it's dead, blah, 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 blah. Kiss my butt.
Nope.
Yeah, well, the second one, that North-South Challenge in Nashville. Now, I'm just looking at this, and this is a correction. The 44th Annual Cobblestone Hotels Slinger Nationals will be on Tuesday, July 11th.
Wow.
So we talked about crossover.
Yeah.
There are going to be some of these drivers that are going to be competing Sunday in the North-South Challenge, and then probably the Slinger Nationals on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we got this list. You're going to hear a lot of repetition, but just deal with it. Tony Elrod, again, the Minnesota Missile, William Sawalich, Jackson Boone, Michael Atwell, Jordan Riddick, Zach Telford, Jesse Love, Gio Ruggiero again, Billy Van Meter, the man, Bubba Pollard, Joe Ross, Jake Garcia, Jet Nolan, Jake Finch, again, Stephen Massey, Connor Sutton, Matt Craig, who just had a baby here not too long ago.
Congratulations to Matt Craig and his wife.
Karsten Everidge, Logan Bearden, and again, Michael Hind.
I like Michael Hind.
Yeah.
That flamed car is just super cool. There's no denying who that is when he rolls in. It's like, oh, I know.
That dude.
Yeah. And then, of course, he takes the helmet off and the mullet goes flying in the breeze. So, he's a unique character.
Mr. Hairdo.
Yeah.
Well, he won his first super late model race down in South Florida. I think it's Citrus last weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
His first actual super late model victory.
And didn't he win the Pro Late down there at New Smyrna?
Yeah, he did earlier this year,
Right.
And then he crashed in the big race because the car went over the top of him, and it was a pretty scary wreck there. But, he won his first super late model feature at Citrus County.
Yeah, there's no missing his car when you see him.
No, not at all. Dude,
Very recognizable.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Good dude. But like I said, that's another race that's going to be a barn burner.
Yep.
And at Nashville, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I miss the old days of the North-South race when you had an N or an S on your car and you had either a rebel flag or an American flag on your car. Can't do that anymore because it's politically incorrect. But it used to be super cool to see guys like Dick Trickle and, Gary Ballou with a rebel flag, Dick Trickle with an American flag, Bob Seneca with an American flag, another Southerner with a rebel flag. It was super cool the way they played it off back then. And it was a lot better, I think. But it's going to be a hell of a race.
Regardless.
Oh, yeah. It's another one of those crown jewel super late model races. You won the North-South Challenge. Used to be the All-American 400 is what they used to call it. I don't know if that's what they call it anymore, but that was the name of it back then, was the All-American 400.
Right.
And my hero won that race a few times, old DW. So that's another pretty cool deal.
Yeah, I think one of those races is 30,000 to win, if I'm not mistaken.
That's probably the one in Slinger.
I think so.
That wouldn't hurt.
No, that would put a nice little bow on that trophy.
Yeah, speaking of a little bit more money, how about $250,000 in a sprint car race?
Yikes.
David Gravel comes away with that big World of Outlaw race this past weekend. I don't know how many cars ended up trying to get into that race, but it was a 40-lap feature, and something happened with David to get around Gravel and lead the rest of the way to take that check.
And we literally just said a few minutes ago, anything could happen. And it happened to Buddy Kofoid, of all people, in that race. Blew an engine just very close to the end of the race, and there you go. That's all it took. Just one unfortunate incident, and it hands it off to somebody else.
Yeah, normally in an asphalt track, you would see something happen like that, and everybody would start sliding everywhere because of fluids. But in the dirt, it's a little different. I'm sure it was somewhat similar, but with Gravel being able to get around Kofoid with an engine going down like that in front of him to lead for that money, I guess you're just going to keep going.
The difference is those engines are dry sump, so when they blow up, they don't spread oil everywhere. The oil's in a tank and gets spread through the engine. Unlike a wet sump motor, which has an oil pan that holds oil.
It just bloosh.
Yeah, when it blows, everything goes everywhere. On a dry sump motor, and when it blows up, unless it really seriously blows a hole in everything, and most of them don't, those engines blocks are pretty much bulletproof. It's just something internally breaks, like a rod or something. They don't spread oil everywhere. Because I've seen some dirt tracks when the engines blow up, especially when it's dry slick. They got to go out there and run cars through it to push it into the dirt, because if not, you can crash. But asphalt, you definitely do not want oil. I was going down the backstretch of Mobile one night, and the guy blew up in front of me, and I turned the wheel to the left, and the car went, uh-oh. I said, nope, I'm along for the ride. I went and did a complete 360 and kept going. It was pretty cool looking, but scary from my part.
Looked good, but
yeah.
Normally, I guess with an asphalt track, when the oil is getting laid down, it's probably an oil cooler or an oil line, because if you're running a dry sump and it's internal, it wouldn't get out on the racetrack like the dirt. But if it's a wet sump, then that's a different story.
Yeah, wet sump is the oil's in the pan, so when the hole comes in the oil pan, all the oil goes everywhere. Dry sump, it's in a tank. It runs through the engine, which, I mean, if you get a hole in the oil line, yes, it'll spread it all over the racetrack because it's going through, or the oil cooler gets a hole in it, yes. But if the motor, usually times when the motor blows up, like in a cup car that usually doesn't spread oil everywhere. They do sometimes, but very rarely.
Yeah, unless you just have a huge failure somewhere.
Yeah, unless there's somebody dropped a grenade right in the center of it and all 8 cylinders are hanging out of it. Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, a wet sump motor, when they blow up, they don't really spread oil everywhere compared to a dry sump motor.
Right. Well, we can get right to the racing. I mean, we've got racing coming up this weekend. We've got racing that we just went over next week. Right. We've got a race going on tonight in the Cars Tour at a half-mile track at Caraway Speedway in Sophia, North Carolina, which is not too far from Charlotte. And we've got some pretty big names that we've talked about. Maybe a Kyle Larson, some Jeremy Mayfield. We got Josh Berry's name being thrown around as a crew chief, Rodney Childers being a crew chief. Man, this is going to be an event.
There we go.
Happening tonight.
The Cars Tour always puts on a good show. It's some great racing. And cool to see Jeremy Mayfield, who's winning in the Grand National Super Series.
Yeah, that's right.
And is moving up to the Cars Tour, which is really good. Somebody give him another chance to drive a race car.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of controversy around him, and I don't know if I believe all of it, but he was a great race car driver in the Cup Series, won a lot of good races. It was dang good. So it's good to see him back in kind of a little bit of a spotlight.
In a Dodge.
There you go.
Yeah, some of those big names, Brendan Queen, who we've talked about, his, I think he's got like a Mario Brothers kind of digit on the side of his car that's kind of a little awkward but he's got a...
Won at Wilkesboro with that ugly paint scheme.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of compliments on that car, too. So maybe he's got something going there. He's from Chesapeake, Virginia, so he's not too far. But Ronnie Bassett, Landon Pendleton, we've talked about, Andrew Grady, Brandon Pierce, Dylan Wilson, Kyle Larson, Bobby McCarty, we've talked about, Dylan Ward, Carson Quapple, Chase Burrow, Caden Honeycutt. We haven't heard about him a little bit. He's from El Lato, Texas. Jared Fryer. He's got a long lineage of racing genes in his system. Ryan Millington, Logan Clark, Chad McCumbee, Jason York, Jeremy Mayfield, Josh Dickens, just to name a few. Yeah. And some of the guys that are going to be behind the scenes or behind the curtains there, crew chiefing, Josh Berry, Rodney Childers. It's going to be pretty big, and we'll have that rundown probably Wednesday night because that race tonight in Sophia at Caraway is going on this evening. So a lot of good racing going on.
Everywhere.
All over, everywhere, every week.
It's so hard to keep up with it. It's just a packed schedule. We literally can't keep up with all of it.
Oh, and, we kind of forgot last week there was also another ARCA race with our boy Christian Rose, and he finished in the top 10. Also, I just want to bring that up real quick. He finished 10th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had some problems. He got spun a couple of times and got his laps back and then faded back and ended up, I think that's his 4th ARCA top 10.
Top 10, yeah.
Going to stay in 5th in points. And, man, he's making everybody proud and keeping that car straight. And he's going to go somewhere. And I can't wait to see his truck debut at Richmond.
Oh, yeah, we'll be watching that for sure. And maybe we can get a hold of him, get him back on and talk about some of the success he's had because, we've had him on here twice now, and I'd like to have him a third time.
Yeah, from where he came from to where he is right now. It's been quite the story.
Yeah, pretty interesting. But I just want to give him a shout-out for another top 10 because that's hard to do in that ARCA series.
Yeah, Christian Rose, Grant Enfinger, John DeAngelis, some of the guys and guests that we've had on here, some of the drivers that we've had on here as guests of Short Track Guys podcast is really exciting to have, and we're going to continue to grow that list. We've got another guest coming on next week with some really powerful information on a local class that's actually grown not just here, but all over I would say the country, not just the Southeast either.
Absolutely.
So the Short Track Guys podcast is growing. It's really a tribute to the listeners and some of the sponsors who come on. McDonald Muffler, thank you. And our listeners. But our guests are building a resume for us to talk about, and they're getting better and better, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, and give us a good review when you can, please, and interact with us. Send us an email or check on our Facebook page. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And
let us know what's going on at your track too.
Yeah, you can send us results at your racetrack, and maybe we'll talk about you guys. Or if you got a driver that you'd like for us to talk to, send us a name and a phone number. We'll be glad to interview them. We love all our short track guys, whether you race a street stock, a Stinger car, a late model or a modified, hey,
Vintage, we don't.
vintage, we don't care. Come on down.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking for updates on Mobile. We're looking for some results maybe next week on the Grand National Super Series.
Right.
The Super Late Model Series up there in Canada we brought up a couple of episodes ago. Those guys are flourishing, and we'd love to see these new series, as well as some of the tracks that are staying with short track racing. We'd like to put all that together. We've got a segment before we end all this tonight. We've got a segment we're going to bring up. We've done history. We've done In Case You Didn't Know It. This one is going to be like In Case You Didn't Know. And Jim's got something very, very interesting that brought to us before we went on, and I want him to share that with everybody.
Well, we're going to go back to 1999, the Snowball Derby, and there was 3 drivers in it for a $100,000 challenge. You'll know who I'm talking about: Bobby Gill, Gary St. Amant, and Rich Bickle. The only 3, 4, and 5-time winner of the Snowball Derby, and the only guy ever to win it twice back to back. Talking about Rich Bickle. The race came down to a late shootout, and Rich Bickle had gone 2 laps down because of a flat tire. He made one of them up, and on the ensuing final restart, which was with I think less than 10 laps to go, the promoter come on the radio and told Bobby Gill to pull up behind Rich Bickle, that he was second, and Bobby Gill said, "No, I'm a lap down." And they argued on the phone. Well, eventually Rich Bickle pulled up. On the radio. They got the green flag, and Gill ended up winning. And in a crazy finish, Bickle hooked Gill going into one after the race and spun him out. Well, the crowd was booing and raising all kinds of sand. And when it was over, they handed the trophy to Gill. Well, Bickle didn't appreciate that. He protested and ended up, Gill was a lap down, which was a kind of a bad part on Terry Spears, the promoter at the time, to do him that way. I didn't agree with that at all. But Rich Bickle ended up winning his 5th and final Snowball Derby in 1999, and $100,000, $125,000 total after the regular purse.
And wouldn't you just know it? That was the year before I started shooting.
Yeah, I know, Ted. But I mean, we talk about Gary St. Amant. He still comes down here with a team and helps.
Yeah.
He still crew chiefs for certain teams. That guy said this was his vacation. You saw him, he had a smile on his face, was always in a good mood. Bobby Gill was one of the best short track drivers that's ever sat in a race car. And, they always put on a show. Gill always come down. I remember one year Gill qualified and never lifted. He went into one and he just like, whop, whop, back when, because they had the tires soaked to the point that you could probably, when they drove off pit road, they're probably leaving black marks. And, he qualified, went into one and two without even lifting hardly. It was impressive, but that was really cool. That was just a little, review of a Snowball Derby. Years past it, people have probably forgot about the $100,000 challenge. So that was a pretty neat deal. And I take it back, it wasn't Terry Spears. Terry Spears was gone in 97. I can't think of the guy. Don Grassman was the one that was promoted, because there was only like a 4-race deal that year. And you had to win one of the 4 races to get in. And I think Gill won one, and I think St. Amant won 2 of them, or Gill won 2 of them. So that gave him the three drivers for the $100,000.
That'd be a whale of a payday there.
Tell you. For a short track race, especially asphalt late models, you could see. That's why they could still pay that kind of money. They just got to get it together. But with all these young kids in the Cup Series money in there, they don't have to.
Right.
It's not about the prize money. It's about getting the kids moved up. Just another point there. But before I forget about it tonight, a little solemn deal, and we'll do this at the end. Right. Prayers to the Jimmy Johnson family for the tragedy they had. We're not going to go into what happened, but I hate to hear he withdrew from the race, but I understand. And the family was asking for prayers, but to be left alone at this time to grieve, and just prayers to Jimmy Johnson.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. And we got a little update on Scott Bloomquist. We made mention of him going through some prostate issues last week. We've got a little bit more information on that. It's not as serious as we probably thought at the time, but it looks like he's going to have surgery next week. I think Tuesday.
Yes.
The 5th
on the 5th,
Wednesday the 5th.
Right.
Yeah. And then he's going to hold off and see what that. He's taking priority with that, and he's got some back issues he's going to take care of. So the update really that we are gathering is a cleansing year.
Yes.
He's going to get his ducks in a row, so to speak, and he's going to help mentor some others in between as he can. But look for that guy to come back in a late model first part of 2024.
He doesn't want to go out like that.
No, he's actually number 18, but he's got the yin and yang symbol. People call him number 0. He's not number 0. He's number 18, but the yin and yang is on the side of the car, so that's just where that comes from. But Scott Bloomquist, one of the best ever to set in a dirt late model. Winner of Eldora like 8 times. World of Outlaws champion. He was the Lucas Oil champion. The guy's won every big race and super dirt late model racing there was to win. Our prayers are with you, Scott. I hope you get better, man. Stay with it. Don't give up. And we'll see you back in a race car soon.
Absolutely.
Right on Short Track Guys podcast style.
That's right.
Well, like we said, thanks, McDonald Muffler. Thanks for all our listeners. Thank you guys for being together. This is a 3-man team we've got going on, and I appreciate all the support that we've got around inside the studio. Everything happens for a reason, and we have come together to give that sharing story of short track racing like we love it. And we're going to do a little different sign-off this time. It's not too far from what we did, but it's still a little different. We're going to check it out.
All right.
3,
2, 1.
Let's go, Brandon. Y'all have a great night.
Be strong, America.
Happy 4th of July.
Thanks for listening. Be safe.